In this video, we're going to write the code which will display a list of all the files that have been retrieved from within the folder specified by the user. Now we want this to happen automatically as soon as the user form actually loads. We don't want the user to have to do anything to make it happen. Whenever that's the case, you attach your code to the initialize property of the user form itself. To generate the sub-procedure or event handler, double-click on the form itself, in other words, avoiding the controls. This creates the default event, which is userForm click. Because it's not the one that we want, we go to the procedure drop-down in the top right of the screen and we change, or rather we choose initialize. It doesn't actually change it, it just adds initialize. We can now delete the click event handler. To loop through the files within the folder, we're going to use the dir function. Dir is short for directory, and it's a VBA function. Let's have a look at the syntax. We go across to the View menu and choose Object Browser. We need to look in the VBA library. And here, in the File System module, you'll find we've got a series of methods or functions, and here's dir. If you want to learn more about it, just click on the Help button to open the online help. You'll see from the syntax that the dir function can be used with or without parameters. The key parameter, for our purposes, is the path name, which will be, in our case, gstr folder, i.e. the path to the folder which the user has already specified. If we use the dir function with this parameter, we'll get the file name of the first file, assuming there is one in the folder. If we then use the dir function again, but without any parameters, we'll get the next file and the next and the next. So this is obviously an occasion where we'll need to use a loop. Let's look at how it works. So we'll need to dim another variable. We already have one global variable. Just to remind you, in the .builder module we created a public variable, gstr folder. So now we're interested in the file name. So now we can just create a procedure level variable. So dim str file name as string. So the first thing we need to do is to read the first file in the specified folder, and we need to loop through files in folder, and the items that we're iterating will be list the file in the list box, and very importantly to move on to the next file. And of course if we forget this step, we'll effectively end up with an endless loop. Okay, so as I said, to read the first file, you specify as your parameter the location of the folder which contains the files. So our variable is str file name, so it's going to be let str file name equal dir, and then in parentheses we specify the path. So the path is gstr folder, and what we also want to do is to specify that we're interested in text files, i.e. files with the extension .txt. To do this, we tag on using ampersand, a backslash first of all to indicate that we're looking inside the specified folder, and then we can use a wildcard.txt. Of course, if we wanted to test for other file types, or if you want to do something like this, but you want to test for Word files, new and old, then obviously you can just modify this, or you can simply use an if statement. So having grabbed your file name inside str file name, you can test str file name. If it equals this, you do one thing. If it equals something else, you do another. So at this stage, if str file name contains nothing, then this means that we haven't found any files at all, because str file name equals dir with a folder path should always return the first file within that folder. So we can now simply say, if str file name equals nothing, then we'll display a message box and we'll end the macro. So let's say no text files found. And we'll use the end statement to end our macro. We don't need an else, because if this doesn't happen, we simply want our code to continue. So to loop through the files in the folder, we're going to use a conditional loop, which of course will be while when as opposed to for next. So while followed by our test, and we simply test str file name. So while str file name is not blank, that means we're still finding files. We want to list each file within the Listbox control. To specify anything within the user form, because our code is in the user form, we can use this special keyword me to indicate the user form. The alternative would be to say frm docs, but me is quite useful because we can then use this code with another form, and the name of the form won't stop the code from running. So me.lst docs.add item, and then in parentheses we specify the item. Now we could simply say str file name, but in fact the file name contains the file extension, and the user probably doesn't need to see the file extension repeated within the list box. So to remove it, we use the replace function. Replace, and the expression in this case will be str file name. The string that we're searching for will be .txt, and the replacement text will be nothing, the null string. So that should add each of the file names to our Listbox control, and then to move on to the next file, we basically repeat this line, taking care that we don't put anything within parentheses after it. That way the folder which was specified originally continues to be processed. And that's it. So we can save, go back to our original macro which starts the ball rolling, and then run that. So let's go to update text, and I've simply forgotten to put my when statement in, so if you spotted me doing that, congratulations. And let's just go back into our code and finish that off. And there we are. So we've got our file names, and we've managed to remove the .txt file extension. So in the next video, we'll look at how we can get a preview to come up in the preview box as we click on each of these.